If others are not ready to support the government or to support, the reduction of the price of cement, they will be compelled, because if they don't reduce,
Every
they will not be
time
able
the price of cement rises in Nigeria, the same two names dominate the conversation: Dangote and BUA. One side blames Dangote, the other blames BUA. Politicians call emergency meetings, builders complain, and families watch the cost of their dream homes slip even further out of reach. But what if this story has never really been about two billionaires fighting for customers? What if the battle everyone sees is only a small part of a much bigger story? Because once you follow the money, the factories, the government policies, and the decisions made years ago, a completely different picture begins to emerge. This isn't just a business rivalry. It's a struggle over an industry that shapes where millions of Nigerians live, how fast cities grow, and how much the country pays to build its future. And the truth is far more surprising than most people realize. By the end of this documentary, you'll understand why cement remains one of Nigeria's most expensive building materials, despite billions of dollars invested in new factories, why successive governments have struggled to bring prices under control, and why a series of decisions made decades ago still influence every bag of cement sold today. This is the true story of the secret war between Dangote and BUA. Cement, a story built on ambition, competition, politics, massive investments, courtroom battles, and a fight for control of one of Africa's most strategic industries. The deeper we go, the clearer it becomes that the real battle isn't simply about who sells the most cement. It's about who gets to shape the future of Nigeria itself. To understand how Nigeria arrived at this moment, we have to go back to a time when neither Dangote nor BUA controlled the headlines.
News from Dangote. We just heard from Aliko Dangote just now, talking about going into power, building larger ports. Revenues 1 trillion for the Dangote cement company for the first 3 months of this year, 20% growth there, and did pretty not too bad, moderating cost of sales. Look at cost of sales up by just 10% compared to revenue climbing by 20%. So revenue outpacing cost there, and you can see the profit before tax. 35% growth, profit after tax up by 53%. That's Dangote. And then BUA Cement, revenues at 355 billion. Again, double digits there. And look at their cost of sales, just 0.6%. 0.67% climb in their cost of sales. So really doing some healthy cost management for BUA there. And you can see the profit after tax rising by 170%. By the way, BUA Cement Lafarge triple digits as far as their year-to-date return in the stock market.
The solution seems straightforward. Encourage companies to build cement factories inside Nigeria instead of importing finished products. New industrial policies offered incentives to investors willing to take the risk, while import restrictions gradually became tighter. The idea was simple but ambitious. If Nigeria could produce enough cement locally, the country could save billions in foreign exchange, create thousands of jobs, and make housing more affordable. It was a policy that would reshape the economy for decades, but it also created an opportunity unlike anything the industry had seen before. Whoever moved first secured access to limestone deposits, built efficient factories, and earned the government's confidence would gain an enormous advantage over everyone else. What began as an effort to strengthen Nigeria's economy would eventually set the stage for one of the biggest corporate rivalries in Africa. And before long, two names would emerge at the center of that story: Dangote and BUA. By the early 2000s, one businessman had already recognized an opportunity that many others either overlooked or considered too risky. Aliko Dangote had spent years building a trading empire, importing commodities ranging from sugar and rice to cement. He understood something few people did. The real fortunes in Africa would not be made by importing products forever, but by controlling how they were produced. As Nigeria pushed for local manufacturing through its backward integration policy, Dangote moved quickly. instead of relying on imported cement. He committed billions of dollars to building modern cement plants inside Nigeria, securing limestone reserves, investing in captive power generation, and developing an extensive transportation network to move cement across the country. It was an enormous gamble. Cement production demanded massive capital, reliable electricity, access to natural gas, and years of planning before a single bag could be sold. But if the strategy worked, it would give Dangote something far more valuable than short-term profits. It would give him scale. The results were extraordinary. One factory became several. Production expanded from Obayana in Kogi State to Ibis in Ogun State and Guboko in Benue State, creating one of the largest cement manufacturing networks on the African continent. As local output increased, Nigeria gradually reduced its dependence on imports, and Dangote cement grew into the country's dominant producer while expanding into several other African markets. Investors praised the company's efficiency, governments celebrated the growth of domestic manufacturing, and Dangote became the face of Nigeria's industrial ambitions. But dominance comes with a tension. As Dangote's market share continued to grow, questions began to surface. Could one company become too powerful in such a strategic industry? If one producer supplied most of the country's cement, who could realistically challenge its position? For a while, it appeared the answer was nobody. Then another businessman with a very different journey decided he was ready to compete. That businessman was Abdul Rabiu, unlike Aliko Dangote, whose rise was closely associated with building one of Africa's largest manufacturing groups. Rabiu quietly expanded BUA across several industries, including food processing, sugar, flour, ports, and real estate. He understood that Nigeria's growing population would continue to fuel demand for construction materials for decades, but entering the cement industry was nothing like entering an ordinary business. The barriers were enormous. Building a single integrated cement plant required billions of dollars. Years of construction, reliable access to limestone deposits, and government approvals that could determine whether a project moved forward or remained on paper. Many companies had tried to challenge established producers before. Very few had succeeded. Yet Rabiu believed there was still room for another major player, and he was prepared to invest heavily to prove it. BUA Cement expanded aggressively through new plants and strategic acquisitions, increasing production capacity and positioning itself as Nigeria's second-largest cement producer. As its footprint grew, so did the rivalry. Both companies announced new factories, larger expansion plans, and ambitious production targets, each determined to strengthen its position in a market expected to keep growing for decades. Investors welcomed the competition, hoping it would increase supply and eventually reduce prices. Consumers expected that two industrial giants competing for customers would trigger a price war. But something unusual happened. Even as production capacity climbed into the tens of millions of tons each year, cement prices remained stubbornly high. For many Nigerians, the numbers simply didn't make sense. If more cement was being produced than ever before, why wasn't it becoming significantly cheaper? That question would lead to a much deeper story, one that had far less to do with Dangote or BUA themselves than with the system they were operating in, almost entirely on Dangote and BUA, as though the price of cement depended on whichever company decided to make the next move. But cement doesn't begin at the factory gate. Long before a bag reaches a building site in Lagos, Abuja, Kano, or Port Harcourt, an entire chain of events has already determined how much that bag will cost. The first piece of the puzzle is energy. Cement production is one of the most energy-intensive manufacturing processes in the world. The giant kilns that transform crushed limestone into clinker operate at temperatures of around 1,750 degrees Celsius and require a constant supply of fuel. In Nigeria, manufacturers rely largely on natural gas, coal, low-pour, fuel oil, and diesel, depending on availability and location. When fuel prices rise or gas supplies are disrupted, production costs increase almost immediately. Add the rising cost of electricity, spare parts, and imported machinery, much of which must be paid for in foreign currency, and every stage of production becomes more expensive. Then comes transportation, a challenge almost as important as manufacturing itself. Cement is heavy, bulky, and costly to move. Every bag leaving a factory must travel hundreds of kilometers by truck, across roads that are often congested or in poor condition. Diesel prices directly affect freight costs, and those costs eventually reach distributors, retailers, contractors, and home builders. Exchange rate movements add another layer of pressure. Although Nigeria produces most of its cement locally, manufacturers still import equipment, replacement parts, packaging materials, and specialized components for their plants. As the naira weakens against major foreign currencies, those imports become significantly more expensive. Suddenly, the rivalry between Dangote and BUA starts to look very different. Their competition is real, but it exists inside a system shaped by energy costs, logistics, foreign exchange, infrastructure, taxation, and government policy. The closer you examine that system, the clearer it becomes that controlling a cement factory is one thing. Controlling the forces that determine the final price is something else entirely. Just when it seemed the biggest challenge was the cost of producing cement, another battle was unfolding in courtrooms, government offices, and boardrooms across Nigeria. This time, the fight wasn't over customers. It was over something far more valuable: limestone. Every bag of cement begins with this single raw material, and without access to high-quality limestone deposits, even the most advanced factory is little more than an expensive collection of machines. Nigeria possesses some of the largest limestone reserves in Africa, but those reserves are concentrated in specific locations. Whoever secured the best mining rights would hold an advantage. That could last for decades. As demand for cement continued to grow, competition for these deposits became increasingly intense, drawing the attention of regulators, state governments, and the companies determined to expand. One of the most public disputes emerged over mining rights in Edo State, where Dangote Group and BUA Group each argued that they held legitimate claims to parts of the same limestone-rich area. The disagreements stretched through legal proceedings, government reviews, and competing public statements, becoming one of the most closely watched corporate disputes in Nigeria's manufacturing sector. Each side maintained that it had followed the law and invested substantial resources based on valid approvals. Eventually, government intervention and subsequent legal decisions helped shape the path forward, allowing both companies to continue expanding their operations in different ways. Yet, the dispute revealed something many people had never considered. The real competition wasn't simply about selling more cement than the other company. It was about securing the raw materials, permits, and long-term capacity that would determine who could keep producing for the next 20 or 30 years. And while that battle attracted headlines, another force was quietly changing the industry in ways neither Dangote nor BUA could fully control. That force was the Nigerian economy itself, beginning in the mid-2010s and accelerating after the COVID-19 pandemic. Manufacturers faced a series of economic shocks that changed the rules for everyone. Inflation climbed steadily. The naira lost significant value against the dollar. Diesel prices surged, and borrowing became more expensive as interest rates increased. For an industry that depends on constant investment, imported equipment, and nationwide distribution, these changes were impossible to ignore. Every additional cost eventually worked its way into the price of cement. Consumers often assumed that producers could simply absorb the difference, but large-scale manufacturing doesn't work that way. When the cost of production rises across every stage of the supply chain, companies are forced to make difficult decisions, raise prices and risk public criticism, or keep prices low and watch profits disappear. This helps explain why cement prices have continued to rise even as Nigeria's production capacity has expanded dramatically. On paper, the country now produces enough cement to meet domestic demand and export to neighboring markets in many industries. That level of supply would normally push prices down through competition, but cement is different. It's expensive to produce, expensive to transport, and impossible to substitute on a large scale. Whether someone is building a single room or 1,000-unit housing estate, cement remains essential. Demand rarely disappears. It simply slows down or becomes more expensive to satisfy. This is why every announcement of a new factory or production expansion creates hope that prices will finally fall. Yet time after time, those expectations collide with economic realities that extend far beyond Dangote and BUA, and just when it seemed these two companies had defined the future of Nigeria's cement industry, another development began to reshape the entire conversation. That development was expansion beyond Nigeria's borders. For years, the country's cement industry had been focused on one goal: producing enough to satisfy domestic demand. But once production capacity increased, the conversation shifted from imports to exports. Dangote Cement expanded across Africa, establishing operations in countries including Ethiopia, Tanzania, Senegal, Zambia, the Republic of the Congo, Cameroon, and South Africa. The company was no longer competing only inside Nigeria. It was positioning itself as a continental leader, supplying one of the fastest-growing construction markets in the world. BUA, meanwhile, concentrated on strengthening its position at home while increasing capacity through new production lines in modern facilities. Both companies understood that Africa's population was growing rapidly, cities were expanding, and demand for housing, roads, bridges, ports, and industrial projects would continue for decades. The opportunity was enormous, but so was the challenge of staying competitive, as billions of naira flowed into new factories and expansion projects. Another question emerged. If both companies were investing heavily to produce more cement, who was actually benefiting the most? Shareholders saw growing revenues. Governments pointed to new jobs and increased local manufacturing. Yet many Nigerians still struggled to understand why building a home remained so expensive. It exposed a difficult reality about modern manufacturing. Success for a company does not automatically translate into lower prices for consumers, especially when inflation, exchange rates, transportation costs, and infrastructure constraints continue to squeeze the entire economy. By now, it had become clear that the rivalry between Dangote and BUA was only one chapter in a much larger story. The real contest was taking place between industrial ambition and economic reality. And as Nigeria prepares for one of the biggest construction booms in its history, the outcome of that contest could determine far more than who sells the most cement. It could shape the country's future for generations. So, who really controls Nigeria's cement industry? After following the money, the policies, the factories, and the decades of investment, the answer turns out to be very different from what most people expect. Dangote Cement is the country's largest producer, and BUA Cement has established itself as a powerful competitor with rapidly expanding capacity. Together, they account for the overwhelming majority of Nigeria's cement production, making them the two most influential companies in the market. But influence is not the same as absolute control. Neither company controls the price of diesel. Neither decides the value of the naira. Neither builds the highways their trucks depend on, nor do they determine monetary policy, interest rates, or global energy prices. Those forces shape the economics of cement just as much as competition between the companies themselves. Perhaps that's the biggest lesson in this entire story. It's easy to reduce complex industries to a battle between two famous billionaires. It's a far more satisfying headline. But the reality is that Nigeria's cement industry is the product of decades of government policy, private investment, natural resources, infrastructure, global markets, and economic decisions that reach far beyond any single boardroom. Dangote and BUA have transformed Nigeria from one of the world's largest cement importers into a country capable of meeting its own demand and exporting to neighboring nations. That achievement is difficult to ignore. At the same time, millions of Nigerians are still waiting for the day when the cost of building a home becomes genuinely affordable. Whether that happens will depend on much more than who owns the biggest factory. It will depend on whether the entire system surrounding the industry evolves alongside it. And until that happens, the secret war between Dangote and BUA will continue. But the battle that matters most will be the one shaping the future of Nigeria's economy. If this story proves anything, it's that the biggest battles in business are rarely fought in public. We see the headlines, we hear the accusations, we watch two companies announce new factories, celebrate record revenues, or respond to criticism over rising prices. But those moments are only the visible part of a much larger picture. The real story unfolds over years through investment decisions, government reforms, infrastructure projects, court rulings, and economic policies that most people never notice. By the time those decisions reach the average Nigerian, they appear in a single place: the price of a bag of cement. The next time cement prices make the news, remember that the answer probably won't be found in a single press conference or a statement from Dangote or BUA. The real answer lies in understanding the system that connects energy, transportation, foreign exchange, manufacturing, and public policy. Because when you understand that system, you begin to see that this was never simply a story about two billionaires competing for market share. It was a story about how industries shape nations, how policy shapes industries, and how decisions made decades ago continue to influence the lives of millions today. And as Nigeria enters its next phase of industrial growth, one question remains unanswered. Will the future finally make cement more affordable? Or will the cost of building a dream remain just out of reach? Only time will tell. And perhaps that's why the story of Dangote and BUA continues to fascinate people far beyond Nigeria. It's not simply about cement. It's about how wealth is created, how industries are transformed, and how a nation's future can be influenced by a handful of decisions made at exactly the right moment. Decades ago, Nigeria depended on foreign producers for one of its most important building materials. Today, it stands among Africa's leading cement producers, supplying both its domestic market and several neighboring countries. That transformation didn't happen overnight. It required enormous investments, calculated risks, government support, and fierce competition. Whether you admire Dangote, support BUA, or remain skeptical of both, one fact is difficult to dispute. Their rivalry has changed the course of Nigerian manufacturing. But every great business story leaves behind another question. If two companies could transform an entire industry, which sector will be next? Will it be steel, agriculture, energy, petrochemicals, or technology? The race to shape Nigeria's economy is far from over, and new competitors are already emerging in industries that could define the country's future for decades to come. The battle between Dangote and BUA may continue, but it also serves as a reminder that the biggest opportunities often appear long before the rest of the world notices them. And for those paying close attention, the next chapter of Nigeria's economic story may already be unfolding. If you enjoyed this documentary, you'll probably find the next story just as fascinating, because the battle for Nigeria's cement industry is only one piece of a much larger puzzle. Across Africa, similar struggles are unfolding over industries that most people take for granted: oil, electricity, telecommunications, banking, food, and logistics. In each case, a small number of companies have helped transform entire sectors, creating jobs, attracting investment, and building infrastructure, while also raising difficult questions about competition, regulation, and the balance between private enterprise and the public interest. Those stories rarely fit into simple narratives of heroes and villains. They're shaped by ambition, timing, government policy, economic conditions, and decisions that can take decades to reveal their full impact. That's exactly what we'll continue exploring here. If you want to understand how power, business, and money shape Africa's future and why the biggest stories are often the ones hidden beneath the headlines, make sure you stay with us for the next documentary, because the next battle may already be changing the continent, long before most people realize it's happening. Before you click away, consider this. The story you've just heard wasn't really about cement. It was about how industries are built, how fortunes are made, and how decisions taken years, even decades ago, continued to shape the lives of millions today. Once you begin to see these patterns, you start noticing them everywhere. The same forces that transformed Nigeria's cement industry are reshaping banking, oil, telecommunications, agriculture, and even the future of artificial intelligence across Africa. So if you enjoyed this documentary, don't stop here. Click on the next video on your screen, where we uncover another hidden story behind one of Africa's biggest business empires. I promise you, once you see how that story unfolds, you'll never look at African business the same way again.